Every morning, long before most people wake up, something begins moving across these waters. Not tourists, not fishermen, not a ferry. Before the boat ever leaves the harbor, its most important cargo has already started moving. Letters from grandparents, medicine for a clinic, school supplies. It's easy to think this story begins with a boat. It doesn't. It begins with an entire waterfront already working before sunrise.
For many children, the school day begins just like anywhere else in America. Homework, friends.
For people living here, mail has never meant only letters. Sometimes it's medication. Sometimes it's replacement medical equipment.
Living on an island means learning one simple truth. You never live beside the ocean. You live with it.
A grocery store tells you a lot about a community. Not just what people eat, but how they live. A grocery store tells you a lot about a community. Not just what people eat, but how they live. From a distance, it doesn't look remarkable. No towering decks, no luxury cabins, no crowds. Just a working boat.
Most people imagine the journey ends when the boat reaches the dock. It doesn't. That's where hundreds of smaller journeys begin.
It's easy to measure a delivery by miles. Harder to measure what it means when it finally arrives. Not everything crossing the ocean is meant to be opened at a kitchen table. Some boxes are opened here, inside workshops. When people imagine remote Alaska, they often picture boats. But many islands depend on something else, small airplanes. When people think about remote islands, they often wonder how things arrive. But just as important is what leaves. Small communities have a way of making every building mean more. A church isn't only for Sundays. It's where neighbors gather. Every island has places people rarely talk about. Fuel docks are one of them. They don't attract visitors. They don't appear on postcards. On islands like these, help isn't always a few minutes away. Sometimes, the people who answer the emergency if you really want to understand a community, don't start at City Hall. Start where people drink coffee, where fishermen sit beside teachers. Looking at a map, the next island doesn't seem very far away, but maps never show hidden reefs, changing tides, or narrow passages that demand complete attention. Most commuters never expect wildlife to become part of the journey. Here, it's simply another day. The captain doesn't own these waters. It's tempting to believe this boat brings life to every island it visits. But that's never been true. Life was already here. Between every island, there are places where nobody lives. No docks, no houses, no mailboxes. The people living along Alaska's coast aren't the only ones following ancient routes. Every spring, millions of seabirds return. For many Americans, low tide simply means the beach looks different. Along Alaska's coast, it changes the entire day. Not every community has a dock. Some don't even have a road. When the mail arrives, the last part of the journey still depends on human hands. There are moments when the journey reminds you who arrived here first. Not the boat, not the towns, not even the forests, but the ice. Cedrons. People often imagine Alaska as a world of snow and glaciers, but much of the southern coast is something entirely. People often ask if navigating Alaska is difficult. The distance isn't the hardest part, the ocean is. From above, these waters seem empty. They aren't. Every vessel you see has a different mission. Across coastal Alaska, entire communities grew around salmon. The cannery wasn't just a workplace, it was the Every island along this route has its own personality. Not because the buildings are different, because the people are. It's found here, around dinner tables, beside warm stoves, inside homes where the ocean is simply part of the neighborhood. When most people picture a fishing town, they imagine boats leaving at sunrise. But sunrise is already too late. When most people picture a fishing town, they imagine boats leaving at sunrise. But sunrise is already too late. Before sunrise, captains will check the forecast. Fishermen will check the forecast. Pilots will check the forecast. But tonight, while most of Alaska sleeps, every morning begins with a question. Not where the boat is going. Most people imagine the journey begins when the boat leaves the dock. It doesn't. It begins here, inside a warehouse. Most neighborhoods are connected by roads. This one is connected by water. Children grow up learning to steer boats before they learn to drive cars.
When people think about farming, they picture fields, tractors, barns. Along Alaska's coast, some farms have none of those.
Every day, boats cross these waters. Fishermen, pilots, mail crews, passengers. Few ever see them. When people imagine transportation in coastal Alaska, they usually picture boats. But every working port depends on something beyond the shoreline.
The journey rarely happens the way we imagine it. A shipment might begin on a freight train, move to a cargo terminal.
We often measure distance by miles, but the final mile is usually the one people remember, not because it's the longest, because it's personal.
A shipping manifest only lists what was delivered. It never records what happened afterward. A repaired fishing boat.
Most journeys are judged by whether they arrive on time. Few people ever ask what it takes to keep arriving day after day, year after year.
But that's only part of the story. Communities aren't built only on the days people work. They're built on afternoons like this.
For them, the mailboat doesn't arrive at the edge of town. It arrives at the edge of the wilderness.
Lighthouses were never built where life was easy. They were built where the sea demanded guidance.
Long before maps, mail route, or modern harbors, people already called these shores home.
In larger cities, a post office is often just another stop. On islands like this, it's something more.
On paper, every route has a schedule. Every departure has a time. But paper has never controlled the Pacific. People often think navigation is about direction. Out here, it's often about timing. A captain doesn't just read charts.
There are places where weather arrives like a single event. Along Alaska's coast, it arrives in layers.
People travel across Alaska, hoping to see the northern lights. For those who work these waters, there's something else. A quiet companion. When people remember journeys, they usually remember how they ended. But routes like this don't really end.
The people waiting rarely think about the journey. They simply trust that it will happen. And perhaps that's the greatest. Reliability is a strange thing. When it's missing, everyone notices. When it's present, almost nobody does.
A map can show you where a route goes. It cannot show you what that route becomes. A dependable route slowly disappears into people's routines. Every child remembers how they got to school. Some remember sidewalks, some yellow buses. Along coastal Alaska, many remember small boats.
Most deliveries never make the news. Neither do most preparations. But somewhere along this coastline, a ship...
People often think science happens inside large universities. Sometimes it happens here, on small islands. Needles. A package connects people, one delivery at a time. A signal connects them every second. Both measures. By the end of the day, the deliveries are finished. The schedules are complete. The route is behind them. But across, it's easy to measure a route by the miles it travels. Harder to measure it by the evenings it quietly makes possible. But each one marks a home, a family, a conversation, a meal, a tomorrow already being planned.
Most people never think about the systems that quietly support their lives. Not because those systems aren't important.
Most people never think about the systems that quietly support their lives. Not because those systems aren't important, but because they've learned to trust them.
Reliability doesn't begin when passengers arrive. It begins hours earlier, with inspections.
Yesterday's journey is already complete. Its cargo has been delivered. Its work is finished. But the route doesn't remember yesterday. The strongest connections rarely ask to be noticed. They simply remain, morning after morning, year after year. A grocery store tells you a lot about a community. Not just what people eat, but how they live. Tomorrow, someone will unlock the post office. Someone will open the school. Someone will prepare the clinic. Someone will untie the first boat. Tomorrow this boat will sail again. The islands will wake again. The mail will arrive again. Children will go to school. Clinics will open.